It's really now.
I never did.
Our friend Ronald Moloka did not make it. He lost the battle to a cocktail of manageable infections and diseases. A beautiful, enterprising life cut short.
Kubanga niba abanjeka niba kimanyagala sifayo nnyo nga kasita nfuna medical services bulungi emanya nti mbere eddagala lyange olya bulungi nina ebyokulya byange sifayo bambuzisa
kati ye maama wo oluvannyuma lw'okimanya nti oli ku kyu yakitwala bubi oba yakitwala bulungi?
kitwala bubi olaba ne ba family members sibona olaba n'ekyokunzija emulaga eyo nali ninga nti siina muntu agenda kumbeerako nnyo oba kitegeeragizekwe
kitegeeza nti wandibadde gyo
oba nandibadde gyendi naye singa wange yandiko
We had to conduct the interview in a car because it was dangerous to film him from his home. His family had turned against his friends. They accused them of turning him gay. Despite growing indications that things are getting better, Ugandan lesbians, gays, bisexuals, transgender and intersex persons still face exceptionally high levels of the HIV disease burden.
My name is Frank Mugisha. I work with Sexual Minorities Uganda as the Executive Director, and we're talking about stigma and discrimination as a lived reality. So this is something that really happens. For instance, if an LGBT person goes to a health center to ask for services, sometimes they get shunned or frowned upon, they get discriminated, sometimes they get directly rejected and denied services. And in some instances, they're made to feel very uncomfortable and they end up not coming back because everyone makes them like a laughing stock. You know, doctors sometimes even bring out Bibles if you disclose your sexuality. So it makes access very difficult, where you find that LGBT persons tend to further stigmatize and discriminate themselves because of the stories they hear from their peers. The talk is the technical people who work with government. Some of them are good because they understand and they relate with us on a daily basis. But when it comes to the political people, like the ministers and the permanent secretaries, they are very difficult to work with because they feel they have autonomy and they bring their political views and they forget the ethics of providing services to everyone with no discrimination. So you find that they're extremely homophobic and transphobic, and they deny services bluntly to LGBT persons.
Can we fight HIV in a manner where we are not defining practice? For as long as I'm a lesbian and I have HIV, that is what is important. If I am a lesbian, I'm a woman. Everything that affects women affects me as a woman. Before I am a lesbian, I'm labeled as a woman. That is what is important. If a woman is at high risk of catching HIV, that means so.
So you are.
Yes. How I got HIV or how I can get HIV is none of your business, because my sexuality is different from how I get pleasure. So that means if you're fighting HIV, you shouldn't leave anyone. For as long as someone looks for pleasure, they need to be protected or given awareness about HIV. Not particularly a certain group of people. Just because lesbians are so reserved, they don't usually talk about their sex and partnership and all that. Does not mean that they are not at a high risk of catching HIV. When they talk about HIV, it's always MSM, men who have sex with men. No, there are women who have sex with women. They are married, but at the same time, they are married to please the society. Because that's what my family wants me to do. I'll get married to a man, but I have a what? I have a woman partner. I am getting HIV from there and bringing it here. So if you do not give me awareness that I can, how to protect, and by the way, there's no protection of women who have sex with women against HIV. If I have HIV, I can't protect myself. I can't protect my partner. I am the frontier of HIV, fight against HIV amongst lesbian women. It may not be lesbian, it is LBQ women. Lesbians, bisexuals and queer. Questioning. They are not sure of which kind of sex they want. In the past, there was HIV amongst MSM. MSM have very high risk. I started a project at Farouk. We support care and protection of women who have sex with women. We have over 20, and particularly 70% are trans men living with HIV. The fact that we brought together LBQs living with HIV and give them care and support, that awakened some minds. It's still a process, but at least we have proven that there are people living with HIV. There are lesbians living with HIV. There are trans men living with HIV.
There have been a lot of challenges when it comes to access health services. However, now at least there is that, we have tried to take off that gap of, like, we have oriented health providers, those who are providing us services. At least now we are trying to make sure that they become friendly to us. Of course, there are also some friendly facilities that are giving us services. But besides, to me, I'm working closely to CSOs that are providing health services to these people, trans people, sex workers, because some of them, they are living positively, but whenever they are arrested, they lack that gap of adherence. So we make sure that we cover up that gap. If at all she or he has been living positively, we help her to adhere to her drugs from the facility that she has been getting it from. Then also we support with nutrition. through like, but of course there are still some gaps but we are still trying to improve by doing orientations to health workers and at the same time facilities to understand our issues. Sometimes a trans woman is arrested and is convicted sometimes, and then he's there, has been living positively or is sick. So whenever he's going to the prison facility, there is that discrimination and stigma. Of course, they do not understand their issues. They're also being, why don't you go back to God? They're like, why are you not being this and this and this? So still, discrimination is still happening, even besides this, even out of prison. I was one of the first people who were charged of Anti-Homosexuality Act in 2014. I'm a trans woman. And I know what most especially the challenges that as a trans woman that you face once you're locked into. Other people identify themselves as men, because there is that bullying. I also got a chance of, like, there's that limited accessibility to friends, or freedom of worship. They could not allow me go to church. So, such stuff. I would like to see a world where transgender people are respected. There is no denial of health services in any facility, anywhere they can go. They are being looked at also normal people, looked at normal Ugandans, normal everyone like other people who walks into another facility. So I'd like to see a world where we transgender people are highly recognized, respected, and considered.
Called Mulucha J. I'm a trans man. I'm an executive director of an organization called Femme Alliance Uganda. It's an LGBTQ organization. Access to health, for me as a person, it hasn't been so good in this country. There have been a lot of challenges where you go to access health services, you walk into a facility, but then everyone looks at you and they all start asking questions. Man, woman. Instead of giving me the services that I need at that time, they start asking questions. Is this a man or a woman? Which is really so traumatic to me. It's something that I don't like in my life. I've come to access services. This is my life. I'm just like any other human being. It doesn't matter whether I'm a man or a woman. All I need are health services. So why don't you give me health services that I need at that moment instead of asking me questions and going to tell a friend or another nurse to come and look at me and verify whether I'm a man or a woman. Ignorance is part of the problem because there are some of the health service providers that we have been able to sensitize and educate about the LGBTQ community, and they have been able to understand and come on board. But there are a lot who haven't yet got this knowledge. So we really need to we have a lot of work to do. Yes.
Have you ever been subjected to ridicule, stigma, or discrimination?
I even don't seek for it because of the fear of the unknown. Okay?
You don't go to health services?
No, I don't.
Why?
The fear of the unknown. I've given you an example. There's a scenario. I'm a transgender person. I come to you and I have maybe an STI. I'm dressed in a suit. That conversation, do you see me mentally? I need to be mentally prepared to actually come and face you with my situation. Do you understand? It is not just about there is a dagara where it did in Mudwali. No, it is more of how do we actually equip our communities to actually access these services? Yes, we have prepared the Ministry of Health, we have prepared all these other institutions, but are our communities themselves empowered enough? Empowerment in terms of all other, to access the whole package of, to know that yes, as an LGBT person, I'm accessing these services and to my satisfaction.
The 2018 Crane Survey report indicates that men who have sex with men in Kampala still have a higher prevalence of HIV infection compared to heterosexual men.
I really haven't been hampered very much in accessing healthcare services. And this is not to say that queer people don't have problems, yeah? Because I think that I am insulated by my class in the sense that, one, I am university educated, you understand? I have access to certain kind of employment which gives me health insurance, which means I've never been in a situation where I walk into a hospital and I'm turned away because I look strange. Because when I walk in, they know that this person can afford to take care of whatever it is they've come to take care of here. So I think that that highlights the fact that sometimes issues of stigma are made worse by other problems, like just economic disempowerment of queer people, I think also plays a role because people treat poor people worse than they treat everybody else. Yeah, so my experience has not been bad, but I'm sure that it's only because of my class power. Because I've had like doctors ask me things like, oh, we should do a pregnancy test, and I'm like, no, you don't need to do that. And then it's like, oh, okay. And then they give you that weird eye, but that's the extent of it. Because, you know, somebody like me, I'm very cognizant of my power in the situation and I can claim it immediately if they try to disempower me. But I know that other people's experiences are sometimes very different from that, yeah.
Intolerance, discrimination, and lack of prioritization of LGBTI health needs undermines prevention and treatment. This endangers the entire Ugandan population. What can be done to improve care, treatment, and support?
What I know is the stigma is a disadvantage for access to treatment, access to testing, and access to any service that an LGBTI needs to have. Because when you go to a facility and you are discriminated against, then there are those words that the harsh words said against you, definitely you'll shy away from accessing the treatment. And then when you go to our treatment centers, they are not LGBTI centered or sensitive. They are not given kind of like a special corner for them to express their feelings, to express their needs in health. Ministry of Health recently, we had a meeting with the Ministry of Health officials, and they told us that the whole country, they have, I think, about 18 centers that provide services to the LGBTI. But these 18 centers, how many LGBTIs can access them? Because they are just spotted centers. They are not all over. How many Ugandans are we? We are over about 40 million Ugandans. Yes. And then when you look at the numbers of the centers they're talking about, it is so minimal. It cannot provide adequate services for the LGBTI.
In 2016, Uganda signed the United Nations High-Level Political Declaration to end AIDS by 2030. Although there is commitment and combined effort by civil society, governments, and donors, the HIV/AIDS epidemic continues to outpace Uganda's efforts. A population HIV impact assessment was done in 6 countries: Uganda, Lesotho, Swaziland, Malawi, Zimbabwe, and Zambia. The assessment indicates a dramatic decline in new infections among Southern African countries. However, Uganda's assessment shows that the HIV prevalence rates are still cause for concern. The HIV infection rate in the country is still unacceptably high. Women still bear majority of the burden, with the prevalence rates at 6.3% compared to that of men at 4.3%. Lesbian women are particularly vulnerable. Unfortunately, there is no data on lesbian women's access to health.
For anything that can prove that lesbians can easily transmit HIV to another, or a woman may not be a lesbian, a woman who enjoys sex with another woman may not necessarily be a lesbian. But if there is proof enough that I can easily transmit HIV to another woman I'm sleeping with, it's quite very important. We need to know. We need to know. Rather than living in a society where we think, no, the transmission between women and women is, we are telling women that it's okay. You can sleep with this one, sleep with that. But remember, some,
Use dildos.
not even dildos, they sleep with men. They sleep with men. And you know, some women, some lesbians believe that having anal sex is safer, protection against HIV. You know, because of ignorance, they are not informed. They make us believe that we are so protected in a state where we can't catch HIV. So lesbians believe that having anal sex is protection. I am protecting my virginity. Some women, I am protecting my virginity, and again, I cannot catch HIV by having anal sex. First of all, the step that we need to take is information. We need to let lesbians or women who have sex with women know, first of all, how to protect themselves. They need sensitization about HIV because some of them believe that that's not our issue. Since I can't infect the other woman, so that's not my issue. And that is very wrong. We are victims of HIV is by starting up that project of LBQs living with HIV. So that there is clear evidence that they are here. And by the way, they are even more than the number that we are able to take care of, because it was like a survey project where let's have this kind of care and see how many women, lesbians come out or trans men come out. And trust me, there are many who have come. There are so many that we can't even accommodate everyone in there. The fund that we have can't accommodate everyone. But the truth of the matter is that there are so many women who have sex with women that are living with HIV. And when we talk about HIV, we need to talk to everyone, because you do not know how I get pleasure. I wish we could do a survey with just as Ugandans, because it is proven in South Africa that the highest number of women living with HIV are lesbians. Why? There's a high rate of rape. Lesbians will never talk about how they were raped last night. They'll come here and be normal. You understand what I'm talking about? Because talking about what happened last night, talking about abuse, is taboo. We are raised in that manner that we can't talk about things to do with sex. But you can't say that this particular group of people needs to be protected more But you're leaving out this other group. If there are men who have sex with men, that means that they are sleeping with other women. They're sleeping with women and they're sleeping with men. What have you done to protect these women? We have a highest prevalence amongst women. But have you taken trouble to find out which category of women?
The LGBTI community stood with Moluka until he passed on. Unfortunately, little has changed down the road. What can we do to end this suffering? What can we do to reduce infections? What can we do to stop avoidable death?
Every time I think of you, I always catch my breath.